The gallery lights had dimmed to soft amber pools by the time Marina Castellano rolled her cleaning cart through the marble halls of the Whitmore Art Museum. Thursday nights were her favorite. The building emptied early, leaving her alone with the masterpieces that lined the walls like silent witnesses to centuries of human passion. Marina had immigrated from Colombia 3 years ago, carrying little more than a battered suitcase and her grandmother's silver cross. The cleaning job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills for the tiny apartment she shared with her younger sister, Sophia, who was studying nursing at the community college. Tonight, as she dusted the frames in the Renaissance wing, Marina paused before a portrait of a young woman in blue silk. The subject's eyes seemed to follow her, and Marina found herself whispering, "You understand, don't you? How it feels to be invisible." She didn't know that Victor Whitmore, the museum's director and heir to the Whitmore fortune, stood in the shadowed archway behind her. Having returned for documents he'd forgotten in his office, Marina continued speaking softly to the painting. "My sister thinks I should go back to school. But who am I kidding? I'm 34. I clean floors. That's all I'll ever be good for." She laughed bitterly. "Sophia doesn't know I've been taking her tuition money from my tips. She thinks our aunt sends it." Victor's jaw tightened. He'd been director for 2 years, and in all that time, he'd never really looked at the cleaning staff. They were ghosts who appeared after hours, erasing evidence of the day's visitors. This woman spoke with an accent that carried the music of distant mountains, and her words cut him unexpectedly. "Sometimes I pretend I'm giving tours," Marina continued, running her cloth gently across the frame. "I read all the plaques during my breaks. Did you know this painter lost everything in a fire? She had to start over at 40, and she became the most celebrated artist of her generation. Maybe there's hope for people like us." She moved to the next room, and Victor remained frozen. That night, he couldn't sleep. Friday morning brought disaster. Victor's assistant, Cynthia Marsh, was a woman who measured her worth in the suffering of others. She'd clawed her way to her position through calculated cruelty, and she protected her territory viciously. "Mr. Whitmore," she announced, entering his office with theatrical concern. "I have to report something disturbing. Last night, one of the cleaning staff was caught on security footage behaving inappropriately with the artwork." Victor's head snapped up. "What?" "The Colombian woman, Marina something. She was touching the paintings, talking to herself. Quite unstable behavior, really. I've already drafted her termination papers. You just need to sign. Show me the footage." Cynthia's smile faltered slightly. "That won't be necessary. I've documented everything. Show me the footage." 30 minutes later, Victor sat alone in the security office, watching Marina's gentle conversation with the portrait. He saw no disrespect, no theft, no damage. He saw someone who loved art with a purity he'd lost somewhere between boarding school and his MBA. But when he returned to his office, Cynthia was waiting with the museum's board chairman, Gregory Pemberton. "Victor, we can't have staff acting erratically around priceless art," Pemberton declared, his jowls quivering with importance. "Liability issues alone, she wasn't acting erratically. She was having a moment of connection with the work." Cynthia's eyes glittered. She was talking to a painting like a madwoman. What if she'd damaged it? The insurance implications. Are you concerned about insurance, Cynthia, or about the fact that someone appreciates art more genuinely than we do? The meeting ended badly. Pemberton insisted on appropriate disciplinary action, and Cynthia volunteered to handle it personally. Marina arrived for her shift that evening to find Cynthia waiting in the staff room, arms crossed like a sentinel of judgment. "Marina Castellano, we're letting you go, effective immediately." The words hit Marina like a physical blow. "What? Why?" "Unprofessional conduct. You were observed behaving inappropriately with museum property." "I was just cleaning, you were talking to paintings. It's disturbing. Collect your things." Marina's hands shook as she emptied her locker. The silver cross. Her extra sweater. A dog-eared book about Renaissance art she'd been reading during breaks. "I have a sister. She needs, not my problem," Cynthia said, examining her manicured nails. That night, Marina sat in her dark apartment, staring at the termination letter. Sophia wouldn't be home until late from her hospital rotation. How would she explain that the money had stopped? That her dreams of nursing school might die because her older sister couldn't even keep a cleaning job? What Marina didn't know was that Victor had been making calls, first, to Gregory Pemberton. "I'm reviewing Cynthia Marsh's employment file. Interesting how many staff complaints have disappeared over the years." Then to the museum's head of HR. "I want to implement a new program. Staff education scholarships. Starting with current employees who show exceptional dedication." Finally, on Saturday morning, a knock on Marina's door. She opened it to find Victor Whitmore standing in her hallway, looking profoundly uncomfortable in his tailored suit among the building's peeling paint and flickering fluorescent lights. "Mr. Whitmore. May I come in?" She let him enter, bewildered and terrified. Had she done something worse than she'd thought? Was he here to press charges? Victor sat awkwardly on her second-hand sofa. I need to apologize. What happened to you was unconscionable. You were fired because my assistant is threatened by genuine passion and goodness, qualities she doesn't possess. Marina sank into a chair. I don't understand. I heard what you said to the portrait Thursday night. About your sister. About the artist who started over. He pulled papers from his briefcase. I want to offer you 3 things. First, your job back, with a formal apology in your file. Second, enrollment in our new museum studies program will cover tuition for employees who want to pursue careers in arts administration. Third, Cynthia Marsh no longer works for the Whitmore Museum. Marina's vision blurred with tears. Why would you do this? Victor was quiet for a long moment. My grandfather built this museum because he believed art should transform lives. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that. You reminded me. You see these paintings the way they're meant to be seen, not as investments or status symbols, but as conversations across time with human souls. I'm just a cleaning woman. No, Victor said firmly. You're someone who understands that art isn't about the frame, it's about the fire inside. My grandfather would have loved you. 6 months later, Marina stood in the museum's education center, teaching a weekend workshop on Renaissance art to a group of wide-eyed teenagers from underserved neighborhoods. Sophia sat in the back row, beaming with pride in her nursing scrubs. Having rushed over after her shift, Victor watched from the doorway, remembering the night he'd stood in shadows and learned to see again. Cynthia Marsh, for her part, was working as a real estate agent in a distant suburb, far from the world of art and beauty she'd never truly understood. As the workshop ended and students clustered around Marina with questions, Victor thought about the portrait in blue silk, still hanging in the Renaissance wing. The painted woman's eyes seemed to follow him now with something like approval. His phone buzzed with a message from Gregory Pemberton. The education program is working brilliantly. Donors are thrilled. You've reminded us what museums are for. Victor smiled and texted back. A wise woman once told me that people can start over. She was right. That evening, after the museum closed, Victor found Marina in the Renaissance wing, standing before the portrait that had started everything. You still talk to her? He asked. Marina laughed. Sometimes. Is that still grounds for termination? Only if you don't invite me to join the conversation. They stood together in the amber light, 2 people who'd learned that dignity isn't found in titles or paychecks, but in how we see others, and how we allow ourselves to be seen. The painted woman in blue silk seemed to smile, her eyes holding the secret that art has whispered through centuries. That every person contains multitudes, and wisdom often comes from the places we least expect, if only we have the humility to listen.